Hey everyone, today we're at my buddy's dad's house and we're going to be putting together this supercomputer. I guess it's supercomputer. Is it a supercomputer?
Gaming PC.
Gaming PC. So why are you wanting to build this?
I've just always wanted to build a gaming PC, and now I was able to get all the parts together and been doing a lot of research, so I figured I would try and put one together on video.
Cool. So Adam, name's Adam. He has a YouTube channel he just started. It is what?
Stonecold Tech.
Stonecold Tech. He's gonna have video games on there. I guess tutorials how to put stuff together.
Hopefully more PC builds.
Hopefully more PC builds. And I'll be helping him all through all of it, I'm sure. So we're going to get started on this. See you in just a second. Anything special about this?
Very big.
I'm guessing this is the
glass
case.
side case from Thermaltake.
Good catch.
Caught it.
Set that aside. But we don't break that.
Don't want to break the tempered glass. Magnetic dust filters.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. Our connectors that we will have to figure out in a bit. Now, I'm just going to leave them off the back side of the case. Looks like my pins or my motherboard standoffs are set for ATX. Now, we open the motherboard. Wi-Fi antennas. Motherboard. Books, and of course you can't go wrong with a sheet of stickers. So let's get the motherboard carefully out of the bag. So this is the ROG Strix B550F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard.
That's a mouthful.
I chose this board because of its options and Wi-Fi, among a few other reasons. The dual M.2 slots, and it's supposed to be a very good board. I guess time will tell. There it goes. Now we will only be using the processor from this box. We will not be using the included processor cooler because I am using the NZXT Kraken 63 water cooler.
So that's the processor, I'm guessing?
That's the processor.
And this is the cooler.
That's the included stock cooler, which we will not be using. And of course, we get a nice little Ryzen 7 sticker to go with the rest of our stickers. And this is the Ryzen 7 3700X. So, and that is an installed processor. Okay, now we are going to install the Western Digital Black 500 gig M.2 drive. into the motherboard. We will install this in the slot closest to the processor. This is where those included stick-ons are going to come in handy. Let me see the approximate drive length. Okay, so this will go right here. Really tiny screws. This will go right in. There we go. Okay. Now we have to remove the cover from the heatsink thermal pad. Reinstall I feel like they don't like you seeing what you are doing.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way.
Just for future upgrades, so I do not lose it, I'm going to install the spare drive mount screw into the other slot. So if I ever upgrade, the screw is easily found. I think the first build is definitely obvious.
What's next?
Up next is the Trident Z RGB Ram. This is a 32 gigabyte kit. It is two 16 gig sticks, so that way it leaves me upgradability later if I decide to go to 64 gigs that the processor will handle. And of course, yet another nice little sticker from G-Skill. In putting this together, you would almost think I've watched a lot of videos on how to do this.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you ever done it yourself? Or is this first time?
First time actual building. I have took apart and put back together OEM PCs, but actually building this is a very interesting first. Next up, I will go ahead and I will check the water cooler because I may have to remove the stock processor cooler brackets. This NZXT cooler, something I figured I would never be able to afford after seeing installed in several videos. But I'm glad I was able to. This one I will have to break out the instructions on because it is able to be used on both AMD and Intel, and of course we are using an AMD system. We'll have to be careful with this cooler because it has pre-installed thermal paste and I do not wish to mess it up. Ooh, this is helpful. Right on the package, AM4. So part of my screws are pre-labeled to make installation easier. I am going to put this on in the case with my helper holding the back plate from the back so that it does not fall off the board. So let's go ahead and install this board in the case so we can figure out our fan mounting locations, our radiator mounting location, and our cable routing. Okay, so now we are going to carefully install the motherboard, being careful not to touch anything sensitive. I was told that I will end up spoiled by the integrated backplate on the motherboard, and I can understand what they're saying. To find my included motherboard screws. Ooh. And also there is an included beeper. It is an error code speaker. It beeps to let you know what part of the boot process you are in and if there is an issue. I'm going to switch up to my magnetic screwdriver for these so I don't drop the screws, hopefully. I'm going to start out by getting all 9 screws in the board, and then I will go back over and tighten them, and that's why I'm using a magnetic screwdriver.
You just keep dropping them.
Well, I have learned apparently from watching videos how to drop stuff like Linus from Linus Tech Tips. One of the people I have been watching a lot on how to do this.
You need to be watching Adventures with Kevin.
I watch them from time to time. I feel like I know this Kevin. He makes pretty good videos.
Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, I believe he does.
I can see right now this has some kind of a mount that I am assuming to be a possible vertical CPU bracket. And I believe it will have to be removed in order to make installing my cables a little easier, because it appears to be covering some of the plugs. This is definitely a learn as you go experience. I do like the fact that from what I am seeing, there are multiple 2.5-inch drive caddies for future upgrade, and also 2 3.5-inch drive caddies. There is plenty of expandability.
Right.
And every opening in the case, except for the rear fan, appears to have screens. Now, as you can see, that makes getting to the bottom I/O ports much simpler. And there is the speaker. Top row, last 4 pins is 5 volt, ground, and speaker. So, that means that goes in an upward configuration. And that is top row, last 4 pins. I'm going to go ahead and do my front panel I/O, which is of course completely separated, as is usually the case. But they are at least labeled and grouped: power switch, power LED, and reset switch, and hard drive LED. Let's see, I am going to do the reset ones first because they are on the bottom. So I'm running them through the nearby opening, and we will do the hard drive LED first. First 2 bottom pins. Then we will do the reset switch, which plugs in next to the hard drive. Then we will come back and do the power LED, positive and negative, and according to the pinout, they are actually swapped on the cable. Plug one in, try to get the other one on that next pin. These are very, very small pins. And then the power button plugs in right next to that. I will say, all these professional computer builders make plugging these in look so much easier than it actually is. Now, we will go with the USB. This is USB 2.0. I will run it through the same hole. And in the USB, there is a missing pin in the connector, and there is a missing pin in the port. So it will just slot in right there. Try and carefully fold this over, prevent damage. Then we have HD audio, and I unfortunately do not have a slot as close as I would like, but I will run it up through this slot, and I'm going to make it a little difficult on my cameraman.
It's all right.
But it plugs in right there. And it also has a missing pin to denote orientation and to keep you from plugging it in the wrong place. So it plugs in. And I will tuck this speaker right back behind these wires. That will clean that up. Okay, so we will plug this in on chassis fan 1. And I will tuck the wire around and try and hide it as best I can around the fan so it is not as noticeable. Cable management. Another thing I have learned from watching these videos. Some do better than others. It is, once again, more difficult than it is made to look. I believe that looks good. By the time everything else is in there, you will barely see that cable. So,
There's gonna be a lot more stuff in there, right?
yes. For the next plug, we are going to very carefully plug in the USB 3.0 cable. These cables are inherently easy to break. Therefore, I want to be careful in my handling and flexing of said easily broken cable. Now, I'm going to try and do some minor cable management here. Not much, because I still have to install my power supply, which I will do now. So, allow me to clear a little space, and I am going to go ahead and install my power supply, and then I will do my AIO. Okay, so let's open this, and then the bell of the ball, the power supply, the heart of the beast. It is fully modular, all my plug connections and my RGB connection. I will have to unplug my front panel audio, as I have noticed I have got ahead of myself, so I can remove the power supply shroud. There we go. Now, because of my fan layout, I prefer to have my fan ventilated into the case, drawing air from inside the case as an extra exhaust fan. Therefore, the power supply will be mounted upside down, but it should still be okay, assuming the screw holes line up for upside down mounting. And yes, they do. Yes, I see them. This case is actually double drilled for the power supply screws. As you can see, since this power supply is RGB, there are plenty of switches for options such as motherboard control or internal control, a button to change the RGB if on manual control, your actual power supply power switch, and a zero fan speed mode switch for a quiet running power supply, which we will leave turned off since we are using it to assist in the evacuation of air. So we need our 24-pin motherboard connector. We have our power cable for incoming power. We have our RGB connector. We have another band of SATA power cables. Some nice PowerSpec Velcro cable management straps. Some old school Molex connectors, which I will most likely never need. You have dual 6+2 pin connectors for your graphics card. Yet more SATA power connectors. Another Molex adapter for what appears to be an old school floppy drive. More PCIe cables. It will be interesting to see how many PCIe cables I actually need. And then I have, luckily, a dual adapter cable for the CPU power, because this board actually has an 8-pin connector up in the corner as well as an additional 4-pin connector. So this double CPU plug at 2 4-pin connectors on each will come in handy. So let's begin with the big cable, our 24-pin motherboard connector. We will route this through over here, and we will plug this in here. Bit of a snug fit. We'll grab our CPU cable and we will plug that in the CPU plug. For now, I am only going to plug in one because I believe I will only need one PCIe cable. It is dual plug, so it should still work for my graphics card, even if it does have 2 connectors, which I am not yet sure of. And I will also plug in a SATA power connector, as I am anticipating the need for it with my Kraken water cooler. Try and bundle these nicely, and I will also grab my RGB header cable, and this is for a 12-volt RGB socket. And it is a pass-through cable, so if another accessory requires the 12-pin hookup, it will be available. And that is plugged in. Since we are open with the shroud right now, I will wait until I have the shroud on to route that cable to my 12-volt 4-pin socket on the motherboard. And we will return the shroud very carefully to its proper location in the case. And reattach the screws. And we have a second screw which appears to be a little closer on alignment. And we will continue trying to clean up this
mess.
Nice
mess of wires.
Mess of cables. So we will run our main power through the top hole. And we will very carefully fold over this 20+4 pin connector and make sure they are securely attached. And plug it in to our connector on our motherboard. There we go. I'm sure that one will be fun to cable manage. Now, if we are lucky, and it looks like we are, we're going to run our CPU power connectors up here through the top of the case through this little hidden hole. This is another one. Should be rather interesting, as we have to fold it nearly in half to plug it in. This is actually where it is nice to have these holes cut in the top of the case. You can get a semi sort of overhead view of the action. And then one of these two plugs has got to plug into the second CPU power connector. This board, as well as several other of the accessories I have bought for this build, was suggested to me by a very helpful worker at Micro Center in Maple Heights, Ohio. His name is Dan, and I would highly recommend talking to him for your computer needs in store. He was extremely courteous and helpful in these trying times.
Did you wear a mask?
Yes.
Did he wear a mask?
Yes, everybody in the store was masked up and good to go.
That's good.
Here's our RGB connector. 12 volt is, according to this label on the wire, the arrow marked pin must plug into 12 volt socket. So the arrow pin is there, and the first pin is 12 volt. So therefore, this will plug in right like that. And I will pull the extra cable down. I will leave the instruction sticker on this cable for any future memory problems on how this installs.
Memory of the computer or yourself?
Memory of the installer.
Oh, yeah.
So, that Now I can reinstall my front panel audio that I had to remove for the power supply. Adjusting this cable because I don't like the angle of the twist in this cable. I'm trying to get everything to lay down here nice and neat. Now, I have decided to do a positive pressure setup on this case. Therefore, my fans will be in a pull configuration on my water cooler so that it pulls air in through the included magnetic dust filter on the top of the case. I will also be installing front fans in a pull configuration, and then my rear fan and my power supply fan will be exhaust to help move air out, and the rest will leak out through the various cracks and holes in the case. Should help keep dust to a relative minimum. I have decided to mount my fans on the face of the radiator, facing downward, so as to move the radiator higher against the top of the case. And actually, I am going to rotate this fan so that my cables should end up at the back of the case and be a little easier to hide. I would also like to say that I like the fact that they have rubber grommets in these screw holes on these NZXT fans. So that should dampen any vibration noise, if there was to be any, which I am not planning on running into that issue. There are extra mounting options in the top of this case for mounting closer to the motherboard on this 140 millimeter wide radiator, or further from the motherboard. Okay, now that I have my placement decided, I will get my pack of cables for my cooler. And we have our fan adapters. We have our motherboard control, a SATA cable, which I intended there would probably be, and a USB control cable for the included display screen. Now I just have to carefully cable manage my cables for my fans. Now we are going to carefully, so I don't swing the pump into the motherboard like a wrecking ball. That'd be bad. So I'm going to carefully try to tuck these wires up. We're going to install this cooler. This is, of course, where things get interesting. working with big fingers with little parts. But there is our first screw. Now we need to clip off our cable ties with these oversized cable cutters. Careful not to cut anything vital. And as I hoped, it would appear that my cables stayed fairly nicely tucked in behind my motherboard. Now it is time for the fun part, because now I must request the assistance of my trusty cameraman. But it is time to install my water cooler to the processor. My trusty camera Kevin,
What do you want me to do?
please hold the back plate to the motherboard so it does not fall off while I change the cooler mounting mechanism. And we're good, camera Kevin.
So I don't have to hold it now?
That is correct. Now I need to locate my AM4 bracket and decide at last which orientation I want my pipes, which I believe that will work. So I carefully remove this cover, careful not to touch the pre-applied thermal paste. Pipes are going in a downward orientation, so this on. And these thumb screws down with my trusty screwdriver in a crisscross fashion to ensure even pressure across the thermal paste. And another part people seem to like, it's always enjoyable, is the peel of the LCD screen. No more touching that screen so we don't get fingerprints. And I will install the USB adapter cable. This one will be a little more interesting to cable manage, but I believe since for now I have only 2 RAM chips installed, I can install it down the center of the RAM to hide it. No, I think I will run it down the outside of the RAM, and I will route it out with my 24-pin power connector. To help make it not as unsightly, and then I will bring it back in directly at the USB 2 port on the bottom of the board, and there is my USB supply for my AIO. Now, SATA power. Hopefully, this RAM will be so blindingly bright and fast that but you will not notice the cables hidden by the RAM chips. Now, because this is an AIO pump, we will plug this in to the AIO pump header. Now I will go ahead while I have plenty of room, and I will install my Corsair ML140 maglev fans in the front of my computer case. This is for extra airflow. These are very nice looking fans. Even though they are not RGB, but RGB is not required for these because they will not be as noticeable as some of the other RGB equipment in this case. And these, as stated earlier, will be installed in a pull configuration at the front of the case. We actually have room for a third 140mm fan, but at this time I will not be installing said third fan.
Would you put one in the future?
Possibly.
Will it really need it?
I don't think it will. I think it will get enough airflow with the current configuration. So these cables will wrap around to the bottom of my motherboard housing. I'm going to put them through here and here. And these will go to the ports for chassis fans 2 and 3, which is right here, I can get it plugged in, and right here. Now I just pull my slack back. Cable management on the rear of this case is going to be an interesting thing, but other than a few odd strays from my AIO, I don't think it looks too bad. Route my cable and route it into the drive caddy that I'm currently not using, or if I use future expansion. Plug in my SATA power for my AIO. And it is finally time to install the graphics card. Now, the expensive part of our build. Sapphir Nitro Plus AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT.
How much that cost?
Video card. It was $435.
Shoot.
A little pricey, but
A little?
it is a very nice looking card. So We have dual 8-pin power connectors. So this is a very power hungry card. We'll check and see. Yes, it appears I'm going to be using the second and third slots. So we open the hold down bar. Do one last check for any missed peels. There do not appear to be any in the middle of the fans. Interesting looking fans though, as the center fan appears to be smaller than the outer two. So, carefully install the graphics card and lock it in place. And we've supplied thumb screws. Go back in. And we are mere minutes from booting this computer for the first time. Okay, I'm going to put my blocker back in. One more step closer to booting this computer for the first time. Everybody, wish me luck on that.
Give a thumbs up if you want to see this computer turn on.
Please give a thumbs up,
Yes.
because I definitely want to see this computer turn on. Now, these are also detachable connectors, so you have to be careful that they properly align. And click in.
Hard to bend it, ain't it?
Yes, these are very tough little wires. It is hard to bend it and keep these cables in a bunch on these plugs. This will have to be laid over, as it will interfere with the case. Otherwise,
That's right.
try to tuck that back out of the way. And other than rear cable management, it would appear as we are done. So I am going to fold these cables.
Look at all those wires.
And for the possibility of future upgradability, rather than the zip ties that the case manufacturer supplied, nothing wrong with zip ties, but I will use the Velcro straps that was included with the power supply. It appears.
Seem to fit.
It appears to fit.
It's pretty perfect.
Yeah, seams lined up and sealed. I will seal in the front fans. And we attach the included dust filter on the side and the top. There we go. Rather nice. And now it is finally time to start cleaning up some of this mess of extra parts and screws and confusion.
We'll be back after we clean everything up.
Yep. I will go ahead and start installing accessories, which includes my Wi-Fi shark fin. I have also purchased a Red Dragon keyboard and mouse pad combo, which, by the way, all of these parts were bought in one stop at Micro Center. So it is a great place to just walk in and buy everything you need to build a custom computer without having to go to multiple locations.
So does this keyboard light up?
I believe the keyboard and the mouse both light up.
Does the keyboard just stay red like it shows on the box, or does it do different colors?
That we will both be finding out together.
Oh, okay. A pretty cool keyboard.
And of course, another sticker.
I love those stickers.
I love those stickers. So, now it is time to attempt first boot of our new system. So, I press the power button. There's a good sign. And I press the delete key if it will post.
Those lights.
Yep. Now we press the delete key. Hopefully. We're looking for the monitor to fire up. It is doing its initial self-test. Brand new systems sometimes reboot a couple of times. We have a green light, we have a monitor, and new CPU installed. Please enter setup to configure CPU fan error. Of course, we planned for this because we are not using the CPU fan header. So we have a BIOS post. And just to check, we have 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 3600 megahertz on the processor, Ryzen 7 3700X. We have 2133 on the processor, so we will have to adjust that.
And by the way, the keyboard changes colors.
Yes, the keyboard is changing colors at this time. Okay, so we have now booted the system, done our basic settings in the BIOS, and installed Windows. And I have just completed my first Cinebench run, and I'm pretty happy. 4726 for the score, which falls right in there where I was hoping. Ran it fairly quickly. I've still got a few things to do. I've got to figure out the rest of the lighting software and find my setting to turn my liquid cooler's display. But as you can see by the liquid cooler, when my cameraman turns here, we are running at 29 degrees on the liquid right now. And if I open my task manager, we are currently running, let's see, 4.2 gigahertz it kicked up to for a second, so that's pretty nice. It's the individual threads on the processor. That's what we have. 8 core, 16 threads, so that shows the 16 threads utilization. And if we go ahead and run R20 in the background here, this may or may not affect our score slightly, but it would appear that we are pulling up pretty good. Of course, this is with just a stock fresh Windows install. I've not took the time to go through and disable any of the Windows fun or anything like that yet, but still pretty good run for just a fresh install. 4724, we actually went up a little bit. Check the memory. Memory looks like it's good. Everything is good. So now that we have done our Cinebench test and a few minor adjustments to the computer, everything seems to be working well. So I guess this is the end of the video. So I'd like to thank my buddy Kevin here, Adventures with Kevin on YouTube, for helping out with this video and producing it.
And more to come.
And more to come. Maybe we can do some more collaborations between the two channels.
Next time you're gonna be on my channel.
Yeah, we'll try.
You will.
But hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Subscribe to his channel too, Adventures with Kevin.
That's right.
He's got some pretty interesting videos over there for you to look through.
Taste testing and travel and a little of everything.
Now, hopefully soon I'll be posting some gaming videos. I do a lot of Ark Survival Evolved and Minecraft, so maybe I can post some build videos from them. Maybe even Atlas at some point. Just have to see how things go here.
Be sure to comment as well. I mean, we don't know where to improve on our videos if you don't comment.
Yeah, so feel free to leave comments. Tell us what you think I should change. Maybe suggestions on what I could add to the computer. Now, I am planning on some point at putting a third 140mm fan in to the front, just so you know. But with these fans on auto control right now, it is extremely quiet, even when running Cinebench. So I'm pretty happy with it. So
maybe next time, or maybe not next time, but maybe in the future, you can build one for me.
Yeah, hopefully.
Like the way distant future.
Not so distant.
I don't know. But I guess we'll see you next time on Adventures with Kevin and
on Stonecold Tech.
See y'all later.